Welcome back to SPH4C. This is lesson 1, and it's a simple lesson. It's just about the difference between vector and scalar. A vector is any measurement that we have that's going to point in a particular direction in space. So the measurement is dependent upon where it points to in space. And so you don't actually have any experience really with this type of measurement, but I'll give you some of these actual type of measurements that you may have encountered. So one of them I'll start with is weight. Weight is a concept where the Earth's gravitational field pulls you down, and it's pulling you towards the center of the Earth, so the direction is pointing to the center of the Earth, and it's a pull. It's a pull that's occurring on you. So that's an example of a vector measurement. Another vector measurement that we're going to look at in just a moment is something called displacement. It's going to measure how far you have moved in a straight line from the beginning of the journey to the finish of the journey. So that line segment that joins the beginning and the finish and the direction it points in is going to be something called your displacement. Other things that are vector measurements are acceleration. This is something that describes how an object will change the rate it's moving at and what direction it's moving in. And finally, one that we'll be looking at very shortly, which is velocity, which is how an object's position in space has changed in time. So it's moved from one position to another, so it's what we call displaced. And then we measure the time that that takes. That's going to tell us how fast that object is moving through that space. We'll usually measure in meters per second. Those are vectors. So vectors have a measurement piece, and then they have a direction. The other type of measurements we have are called scalars. And scalars are measurements that you're quite used to. An example of a scalar is mass. At the moment, we're going to use the definition that mass is the quantity of stuff an object's made of. And this concept is that your mass doesn't change. The mass of this marker is the same here as it is here. Its mass hasn't changed as I move it. However, the weight of this object is slightly less when it's up here compared to down here. The next thing is there's a measurement called distance. Distance is a scalar measurement. It doesn't have a direction. It's just telling you the total length of the path that you traveled. So distance is a scalar. It doesn't tell you anything about where the object is pointed in. You have no information about that. An object could be changing direction. It could be going up, down, moving all around. And we would measure the total path that it traveled on. And then finally, another scalar is speed. And we're going to look at that in very much detail in the next coming lessons. And speed has to do with how an object's moved its distance per time. Now, in scalars, there's a lot more scalars. One of them is energy. Another scalar is power. These measurements we'll get into detail as we get to the work and energy unit. But for now, the main idea is a vector is any quantity that has a direction that it points in, that you measure, and this is a measurement that does not affect it by direction and doesn't have any special properties depending upon where it's located in space. Vectors, you will be able to tell because the symbol will have an arrow above it. So if you see any symbol that has an arrow above it, that's what we call a vector. Thanks.